Let me ask you a question. What happens when a man betrays or deeply hurts the woman who loved him most? I'm not talking about a simple mistake or a careless word. I'm talking about the kind of pain that cracks trust, the kind of wound that changes two people forever. Many men think they can walk away untouched, that once the relationship ends or the woman moves on, they're free of consequences. But that's just not true. The price is paid, sometimes immediately, sometimes over years, but it's always paid. Today, I want to look at this idea through the lens of responsibility, consequences, and psychology. I'll be breaking down the hidden cost of hurting the woman who once gave her heart, and I'll share thoughts inspired by Jordan Peterson's work on responsibility and meaning, but in my own words and interpretations. So, let's dive in. Lesson 1. Love is a gift, not a guarantee. When a woman chooses to love a man deeply, she is offering something rare: trust, vulnerability, and devotion. This is not automatic, and it's not something a man earns forever just by existing. Love is more like a flame. It must be respected, protected, and nurtured. When a man disregards that, when he betrays her trust through infidelity, neglect, cruelty, or even indifference, he's not only hurting her, he's also eroding the foundation of his own life. Think about it. Loving relationships are one of the few anchors we have against the chaos of existence. The woman who loves you most often gives you a kind of stability no job, no money, no friend group can replace. So when that love gets wounded, the man doesn't just lose a partner, he loses a piece of the structure that holds his life together. Everyday example. Imagine a husband who constantly dismisses his wife's feelings. She tells him she feels lonely, but he brushes it off. She asks him for more time, but he's too busy. At first, he thinks there's no problem. She'll stay because she's loyal and patient. But slowly, piece by piece, her love starts dying. She stops smiling around him, stops trusting him, and maybe, one day, she finally leaves. Now here's the quiet tragedy. When she walks away, he doesn't just lose her, he starts to see himself differently. He realizes that the woman who once believed in him no longer does. And there's no quick fix for that. No amount of money or fleeting pleasure can replace the depth of being seen, respected, and loved by someone who once gave everything to you. That's the cost. It's psychological, emotional, and it lingers. Lesson 2. The psychological price. Let's think deeper. From a psychological perspective, when a man hurts the woman who loved him most, he also hurts his own identity. A man is shaped, in large part, by how he shows up in his closest relationships. If he fails in that space, he can't escape himself. Maybe he silences the regret, throws himself into distractions, starts chasing empty pleasures. But guilt has a way of crawling back in. Late at night, when the world is quiet, the memory of her face, her tears, her absence, it comes back. That's not something you can drink away or bury under work or even replace with another partner. Because once you've betrayed deep love, you know, on some level, that you've wasted something sacred. Cultural and analytical comparison. This idea isn't just psychological, it's also cultural. If you look at ancient stories, myths, and even literature, men who betray loyal love often suffer a downfall. Think of Greek tragedies. Betrayal leads to chaos. Think of Shakespeare. The pain of lost love often destroys the betrayer just as much as the betrayed. Even modern society reflects this. Look at the world of celebrities. When scandals break because of betrayal, their reputations crumble. But in everyday life, the collapse is quieter. A man may keep his job, his money, and even his friends. But deep inside, he carries failure. And to take it even further,
Thinkers like Carl Jung spoke of the shadow, the dark part of ourselves we try to hide. Hurting someone who loved us most feeds that shadow, and ignoring it only makes it grow. A man who betrays his partner's love isn't only harming her, he's feeding his inner decay. Lesson 3. The ripple effect. When you hurt someone who once trusted you fully, the damage doesn't stop at the two of you. It spreads. A woman who was betrayed might struggle to trust again in future relationships. Children, if they're involved, carry that wound for life. Families get divided. Friendships take sides. And here's the overlooked part. The man pays again here, because every ripple of that broken bond also cuts back into his own life. He may lose connections, respect, and even his own self-confidence. The price comes at him from multiple directions, inside and outside. The long-term loneliness. There's a kind of loneliness that doesn't show up right away. It arrives slowly, after the noise fades and the distractions stop working, and it often follows after a man has hurt the woman who loved him most. This loneliness isn't just physical isolation, it's a deeper sense that life no longer has the same meaning because a core responsibility was abandoned and the person who once believed in him isn't there to mirror back his better self anymore. Meaning and responsibility are deeply linked. When responsibility towards a partner is taken seriously, life often feels richer and more purposeful. And when that responsibility is betrayed, meaning tends to drain away over time, leaving a man with a hollow freedom that doesn't satisfy.
In practice, the first phase often looks like denial and distraction, new relationships, work binges, social media highs, but unresolved guilt and regret often resurface in quieter moments, because intimate bonds are identity-shaping, and damaging them can destabilize one's self-concept in lasting ways. Research on romantic betrayal consistently shows emotional aftershocks, depressive symptoms, anxiety, damaged trust schemas that don't simply fade. These patterns affect future relationships and a person's general sense of well-being, which is why many men later experience an aching distance from others and from their own values. How trust breaks and stays broken. When betrayal happens, infidelity, deception, chronic neglect, trust isn't just a feeling that flips off, it's a psychological framework that collapses, and rebuilding it requires both time and moral effort that many underestimate and some never complete. Therapists who treat betrayal trauma describe how it shatters the felt safety of the relationship, turning what should be a secure base into a perceived source of danger, which is why even sincere apologies can feel like whispers in a fire until accountability and consistent change are demonstrated over time. The consequence for the betrayer is indirect but real. Broken trust in a partner often echoes as self-distrust. If I did that, who am I? And that inner fracture can lead to avoidance, cynicism, and future commitment problems that breed more isolation. Academic work on betrayal notes enduring effects such as loss, grief, morbid preoccupation, self-doubt, and anger. These aren't just short-term storms, they're patterns that can harden into loneliness when not addressed with responsibility and repair. The always busy partner. He misses milestones, ignores bids for connection, and rationalizes it as ambition. Years later, he hits his goals, but the person who was his home isn't there to share the moment, and the victory tastes thin because meaning doesn't track pure achievement, it tracks responsibility fulfilled. The "it was just a message" betrayal. He dismisses an emotional affair as harmless. Trust erodes, her warmth cools, communication grows brittle. Even if they stay together, the climate changes, and he lives with the knowledge that a deeper safety used to exist and was lost through his choices. The fix-it-later illusion. He promises future change without present action. Over time, she learns to stop believing, and when she finally leaves, he realizes that time didn't fix anything. Consistent responsibility would have, because trust is rebuilt by patterns, not promises. Each of these paths has a price: diminished intimacy, a colder home life, social fallout, and most painfully, a quieter sense of self-respect. Meaning grows where responsibility is taken up, and it withers where it's abandoned. If there are children, the price compounds. Parental responsibility includes modeling reliability and care, and violations in the couple bond often spill into the family system, creating layers of relational repair that require humility and steady work. The shadow he feeds. Hurt in love feeds the shadow, the disowned parts of the personality that include guilt, resentment, selfishness, and fear. And when these are denied rather than confronted, they shape behavior from the dark, leading to repeated patterns of betrayal or withdrawal. The shadow isn't only about bad traits. It includes unlived strengths and real potential, but when shame and avoidance dominate, a man loses contact with those constructive energies and remains stuck in the cycle that damaged the relationship in the first place. Shadow work in relationships can be powerful, but it never replaces basic ethics. Accountability, boundaries, and truthful repair come first. Otherwise, shadow work becomes an excuse to avoid the plain duty of making amends and changing behavior. Integration requires a relational container, consistent, reliable contact where remorse, anger, and shame can be processed, which is why serious repair often needs counseling or structured support, not just private resolve. Cultural mirrors, stories that warn. From tragedies and epics to modern dramas, cultures repeatedly show that betrayal of devoted love invites internal collapse. Characters may keep status, but they lose peace, integrity, and a sense of wholeness, illustrating that the deepest punishment is often inside the betrayer. When actions violate core responsibilities, cognitive and moral dissonance intensifies, and unless a person chooses responsibility and repair, the psyche will produce symptoms that signal the cost: anxiety, rumination, mistrust, and isolation. Even public scandals echo this pattern. Reputation damage is visible, but the private price, alienation from loved ones, the collapse of a trusted home base, and the loss of moral self-regard is the part that lingers long after headlines fade. Across contexts, the lesson holds. The worst cost isn't just losing someone, it's becoming someone less trustworthy to oneself, which corrodes the capacity for future love and meaning.
Redemption versus permanent regret. Is redemption possible after hurting the woman who loved him most? Yes, but it's not guaranteed, and it's never quick. It requires truth-telling, acceptance of consequences, and a long commitment to change that restores safety through consistent action, not speeches. Rebuilding trust requires addressing attachment fears, repairing communication, and reestablishing dependability. Without these, attempts at reconciliation often repeat the cycle and deepen cynicism on both sides. Redemption also has a boundary. The harmed partner may choose not to return, and that decision must be respected. In that case, redemption becomes personal, living differently going forward, taking responsibility in future relationships, and refusing to repeat the harm. This aligns with the idea that meaning is found by voluntarily carrying the right burdens. Even if the relationship cannot be saved, the man can choose a path where responsibility reshapes character and prevents future betrayal. Conclusion: the lasting lessons and the path forward. Having explored what happens after a man hurts the woman who loved him most, it's clear the price isn't just a momentary sense of guilt or an awkward silence. It's the loss of trust, a change in how both people see themselves, and a ripple effect that can last for years. The emotional cost goes far beyond just two individuals. It impacts families, friendships, and most importantly, the man's own sense of who he is. Loneliness creeps in not simply because someone is gone, but because the stability and dignity that come from handling responsibility well are gone too. Many men think they can fill this emptiness with work, distractions, or new relationships. Yet the shadow of regret often follows behind, reminding them of what was lost. Sometimes men learn to live with that emptiness, but it never turns into true happiness. It's just a quiet, relentless echo. But here's the truth I've observed. There's always an opportunity to choose a different path. Regret can become a turning point. Some men realize, sometimes painfully late, that they need to own up to the harm, apologize with sincerity, and begin to live with integrity and courage. This doesn't guarantee the relationship will heal or that trust will be regained, but it does mean growth is possible. Often, the most meaningful progress comes when men stop running from the consequences and start working day after day to repair their own patterns. This means learning about themselves, confronting the uncomfortable parts, and building better habits. Redemption in this context isn't about getting back what was lost. It's about becoming someone trustworthy, whether forgiveness comes or not. How to practice responsibility this week. If the lessons above resonate, here are a few practical steps for anyone wanting to take responsibility in their relationships. Start honest conversations. Don't wait until trouble strikes. Ask those closest if they feel valued, listened to, and safe. Apologize immediately and clearly for mistakes. Don't minimize pain or make excuses. Stay consistent. Reliability isn't about big gestures, but about showing up in small ways, day after day. If trust has been broken, allow time and structure for healing. Attend counseling or create routines that rebuild safety. Invest daily in the relationships that matter most. The best time to start is now. Being responsible in love is tough work, but it's the only thing that makes deep connection possible and lasting success meaningful. Asking the viewer. So here's my question for you to think about. What's the most important relationship in your life where you could practice radical responsibility this week? Maybe there's an apology you've avoided, a promise you want to keep, or a conversation you need to start. If this message resonated or challenged you in some way, let's talk about it below. How have relationship mistakes changed you? What helped you grow or repair the damage? If you found this script helpful or thought-provoking, please hit like, leave a comment sharing your experiences or questions, and subscribe for more honest, practical guides on responsibility, relationships, and personal growth. Ultimately, the biggest price we pay for hurting those who love us is forfeiting the chance to become the kind of person we're proud to be. Don't let regret define your story. Choose to repair, to learn, and to build something stronger starting today.